It is at this point in our journey that we lose some of the scientific certainty. The reason for this is known as the hard problem. We can explain many things about the way our brain works, our reactions caused by chemicals, to fight or flight, for example. But when it comes to the mental aspects of consciousness, we are confronted by a major problem. It is a physical property. I mean, what other properties are there? But how does a system that is entirely physical come to have defining mental properties? It is a bit like that we know water is wet, but when we drill down to the atoms of hydrogen and oxygen, these do not have any wetness about them. We have seen earlier how the brain has evolved, and most of this makes perfect sense. But what evolutionary advantage does consciousness give us? Is consciousness just a byproduct of evolution that came to be, rather like an architectural spandrel? Would it not be just as evolutionary effective to be fully functioning human zombies? Behaving exactly as we do now in response to everything around us and each other, but without having any inner thought. Or would not having consciousness reduce life to something empty and therefore unsustainable? So let's look at the main ways of approaching this very thorny problem. The first is that the mind is purely a physical phenomenon, and that the only and ultimate reality is physical. Everything has a substance, a physical property, and consciousness is just one more scientific physical problem to be solved by physicists. If we understand how all the atoms in the brain work, we can understand thought, and we can understand self-awareness. But how does a combination of physical things evoke consciousness? How do they cause a mental state? More importantly, how do we know the physical properties we are relying on really exist? Surely, they are only there because of our conscious state. The second option we have states that there is a physical world, independent of us, and a separate mental world of consciousness and its contents. But if we adopt this particular approach, we come up against the question, what kind of stuff is this mental stuff? If it is not material matter, then how can an immaterial desire to raise my arm lead to a material arm being raised? What are the links between the physical and the mental realm? How can we understand what a thought is and where it comes from when we are controlled by the very thoughts that we are trying to understand? Lastly, we come across the option that all is a mental state and there is no physical realm at all. If you've had a chance to see the film The Matrix, this is the premise, also known as the brain in a jar. The mind experiences the entire physical realm, but it does not really exist. It is made up by the senses and the consciousness in a state akin to a real-life dream.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
We depend completely on these functions to tell us our reality. But what if they are not as they seem? What if our reality was like a computer hologram? Would we know?
The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
No. I don't believe it.
An interesting facet of this approach is some of the advances in quantum physics, where particles exist in many states at the very same time, but it is only at the point of the observer turning the material world into an observed conscious state that the particles take a definite form. This raises the possibility that the mental realm invents the physical realm from infinite possibilities, that they exist as they do only because of your consciousness making them real. I have to acknowledge the possibility of a mental-only option, but will progress with the more reason-based approach that there is a physical world that interacts with the mental world. The mental world may turn out to be a physical one, but we are nowhere near explaining that, and may actually require a whole new branch of physics. So our souls, the essence of you and me, are very difficult to determine via a scientific approach. If we invent a machine that exactly copies our molecules, like the transporter in Star Trek for instance, but something goes slightly wrong, and there are two copies of me, one down on the planet below and me and the transporter on. And I am informed that I will be disintegrated soon, as I am already down on the planet below. But wait, surely I would want to live. Which one of these Captain Kirks is actually me? So what is a soul? What is a me? We do know that somehow consciousness did evolve. The brain senses the reality around it and creates an illusion, like a hologram, of what we hear, see, smell and touch, so that we can take energy from our surroundings, navigate through our dimensions and survive. We know what something is like to be green. We have a sense of it as soon as it is suggested, even though we have no awareness at all of the length of light waves and that these particular light waves are bouncing back off an object to emit what we see as green. Our perception of reality is based upon these learned qualia, and we accept them and use them to construct our reality without thought or question. So we have to make sense of our world and notice only the important things. If you like, we have a million things being presented to us all the time, but only a few make it into our consciousness. Have you noticed your breathing? Now I have brought it to your attention, do you now? Well, imagine having all these millions of pieces of information as thought. We would be overloaded. But the brain deals with most of our reality, survival, and sense of self without us ever being aware of it. We will look in the next section at how the brain does this.